You probably have heard of that book, The Alchemist. I was listening to an interview by the author. His name is Paulo Coelho. And he was describing these amazing thoughts on the topic of approaching God. And I just thought that his insights were so on time for the culture that we're living in today. So here was his comment. Courage is the first quality you need. Otherwise, you reduce the world to that which you can explain. I think each of us have those moments in our life where we're captured by this courage that was present in that moment, and in some way, shape, or form, the entirety of our world changed. So this notion that courage opens space for the unexplained, it's a part of the human condition, I think. It's a part of the brilliance that's inside of you. I love that notion that within the creative is the spark of God. And I think that Coelho is touching on that as well. How we get to participate in something that is transcendent, something that is divine, that creates beauty that did not exist prior to those moments. And a key component is courage. I have 5 kids, and each of them are in their 20s, all of them adults. And if there's anything that is an anthem for this generation, no matter where you are amongst the 7.3 billion people, this anthem would be exactly in this context that he's talking about. I'd like to unearth a courage that creates an alternative reality. There's a lot of moving parts there. But I can say earnestly and honestly, having worked with thousands of people over the last 37 years, that to the one that displays courage, something transcendent occurs. That same generation is speaking out loud, and they're saying something to the effect of, give me something terrifying, give me something transcendent. You're an influencer. And offering that terror that takes us to the ragged edge of ourselves and brings us to an entirely different space, you're an influencer. Allow people to dream like that. Allow me to be terrified of a quality of life that didn't exist before this occurred. And let's just think about the people that we can think of in fairly recent history that lived in that terror, lived in that divine space. Certainly Mother Teresa. Nelson Mandela changed an entire nation. In that uncomfortable terror. Martin Luther King started a revolution. Churchill defended an entire country. Sir Thomas More went to the gallows with this sort of terrible courage inside of him. Galileo put his life on the line. Thomas Aquinas opened new horizons. let me encourage you to do something maybe after we break after dinner tonight. Search YouTube for The Grand Inquisitor by Dostoevsky. And there is this terrifying and brilliant moment. Those of you that have read Brothers Karamazov know the scene. And what occurs is Dostoevsky takes us to an alternate reality in which Jesus Christ has returned to the planet. And no fanfare, nobody knows it. He's working amongst the peasants, he's working amongst the streets, he's healing the sick and he's raising the dead. And the cardinal from that particular region is, in fact, the Inquisitor as well. And the scene that you'll see on YouTube, it's about 25 minutes long, is the cardinal stepping into this Dungeness cell that Christ is captured in. Christ comes out, and for 23 and a half of those 25 minutes, the cardinal terrorizes Jesus Christ for living in an entirely different space, chastising him because of all of the work that it's taken us to get humanity to return to our little boxes. Terrorizes Christ with some of the most awful, horrible words you can speak to mankind. He announces his death at the gallows the next day. He will sign that order. He will assure that we're going to get rid of this one once and for all. Christ says nothing. And as the cardinal winds down his tirade, Christ simply does this. He steps forward and he pulls his brother close. And Christ kisses him on the lips and lets him go. The cardinal's shocked. He makes a beeline for the door, leaves the dungeon, and this curious little vicious interlude that Dostoevsky weaves into the story is, and the cardinal left the door to the dungeon open. As if to say that from that moment forward, the power of love has the ability to transform, and it could never be kept in a dungeon. So transform your generation, right? Leverage your influence and offer the world a type of courage that's never been seen before. I think that's it.